Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto become the Angel Chaos. But before we start, I want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Intro and Chapter 1. Introduction. Enter James Rosen. What up, dude? The name's James Rosen. I'm in my early teenage years, and I happen to be a ninja. Yeah, you read right, a ninja. To be precise, I'm a genin serving someplace you just might not believe, Tenshi no Kuni, meaning, Land of Angels. If you happen to be from the other elemental nations, then you'd be shocked because where I live is a floating freaking continent. I'm also a graduate from my local ninja academy in Mobotropolis. And I think it's one of the coolest places, like ever. They actually train and teach you to be a ninja if you're willing, that is. Not only that, but they gave us these lectures to make us understand how dangerous an occupation a ninja can be if you're not careful, especially if you're a lower rank ninja. It's meant so that we won't act like idiots on any mission. The reason why I wanted to be a ninja in the first place, because of his royal awesomeness, as I'd like to call him, King Naruto Mizukami, who is the ruler of Land of Angels. I hear the dude's got godlike power and stuff. Plus, he's the guy who invented warp rings. And extreme gears and stuff. How'd he come to be this way, you ask? Well, alright, it's gonna be a long one, but I promise you it's a great story, seriously. It all started before the continent was split into 3 separate islands the first time. There was this really nice chow, and he apparently stumbled onto this shrine. But, it's what was there that's the ticket. 7 mystical gemstones, the Chaos Emeralds, controlled by this larger one, the Master Emerald. That little chow came up to the Master Emerald, and its power mutate him into a water monster of godlike power. With that, he guarded the emeralds and protected his peeps while keeping the waters around the shrine nice and clean. Then, one day, some bastards, pardon my language, showed up and tried to take the emeralds, and that mutated chow's kin got attacked in the process. Boy was he pissed off again, pardon my language, and further swearing afterwards, and he absorbed the negative energy of the emeralds and turned into a ginormous beast. He went on a way nasty rampage, during which, the continent got split into Angel Island, West Side Island, and South Island. After all that's done, the mutated chow, who became known as Chaos, became super remorseful at what he'd done and exiled himself from Angel Island, so that he could find someone with a pure HEA RT to inherit his powers and make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. Now, for King Naruto's side of the story, he is the firstborn son of Minato, the Yellow Flash, Namikaze, the 4th Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village or Konoha. And his wife, Kushina, the Red Death, Uzumaki. His younger sisters, Naruko and Natsumi, each had a half of the 9-tailed fox, one of the infamous tailed beasts, sealed inside of them. However, Naruto was neglected by his parents for their sisters, who got spoiled rotten to the core. They kept turning Naruto away for ninja training, and that, combined with the spoiling, encouraged those 2 bitches to treat him like shit. Those 2 sisters pulled all sorts of crazy stunts and pranks around the village and always pinned the blame on their bro. When he and his siblings turned 8 years old, that was when the shit hit the fan. Minato and Kushina disowned Naruto and made his bratty little sisters the clan heiresses. He has really had it with them from there. So he ran away from home and took some of his dad's jutsu scrolls with him. That, my friends, was when he met Chaos, who figured that Naruto had the purest heart he could find. Right there and then, Chaos gave Naruto his powers. And his legend was born. Now, 3 years later, and at the time, me and my family were living in the hilltop zone on West Side Island. That is, when that asshole, Drive Robotnik, showed up to take over and turn everyone into robots against their will. However, King Naruto and his adoptive younger brother, Ethan Termcrest, showed up and saved our skins while keeping the Chaos Emeralds out of Robotnik's hands. Naruto then merged West Side Island with the rest of the continent, and gave everyone an announcement of what had happened. So, with the merging of Angel Island, South Island, and West Side Island, Land of Angels was born. A lot of things happened because of it. We got our own ninja programs, and extreme gear riding is the hottest sport around, and other awesome things. Right after Mobotropolis was built by King Naruto himself using shadow clones, a lot of people moved in, especially my family. It's also where the center of Naruto's rule, Castle Mizukami, stands. Mobotropolis also has a ninja academy, which I attended and graduated from. Now, it's been 2 years since we moved to Mobotropolis. Not only that, but the infamous Black Arms invasion had occurred. During my graduation year at that. Thankfully, the king and his friends put a stop to those ugly alien assholes and their leader, Black Doom, whom I heard was pure evil that it made his royal awesomeness want to puke. Heck, I'd puke, too, if I ever felt the aura of someone just as nasty as Black Doom. As of the current, I'm on Team 14 with 2 of my best buds, Dave Bromley and Irving Satomi. Our assigned Jonin instructor is Aaron Zoe, who is from the Knuckles tribe, and he's an awesome dude at that. It's also been said that Aaron Sensei was one of the very first people that King Naruto trained in the ninja arts and was given the rank of Jonin. When we were assigned under Aaron Sensei's tutelage, he gave us a little teamwork test. All Jonin instructors in Land of Angels are required to give their assigned genin a teamwork test when they first graduate. It took some doing, but we managed to pass Aaron Sensei's test. Fast forwarding the present time, along with a third-person POV change. Chapter 1. Panic at the Extreme Gear Games. James Rosen is a young man of 13 years. He is 5 inches 4, has a fair skin tone with brownish-black hair and pale green eyes. On his head is He forehead protector for Land of Angels, depicting 7 small emeralds in a circle surrounding a larger one, representative of the Chaos Emeralds and Master Emerald. He is also wearing a sleeveless red shirt with a pair of denim jeans and sandals, in addition to a digital wristwatch on his wrist. However, during missions, he wears a standard-issue Loa ninja uniform. On his hips he wears utility pouches for containing basic equipment and scrolls. As of current, he is on a mission with his team, a C-ranked security job at the Mobotropolis Extreme Gear Stadium, where his older brother Cameron, Cam for short, is competing at the Mobotropolis Extreme Gear Games. The Games is also a seeding event into the Tenkaiga * Extreme Gear National Championships. By far, nothing had gone horribly wrong, it would only be a matter of time before something did. As James kept an eye out for anything out of the ordinary, one of his teammates, an ash-gray-haired lad named Dave Bromley, asks him via walkie-talkie, "See anything yet, dude?" He replied back, "Nah, nothing unusual, but we'd best be on our guard. You never know if something might go to hell in an instant." And my older bro getting hurt badly in the crossfire. As he then continued to keep an eye on the competition. So far, he didn't spot any sports betting among spectators, a serious no-no at Tenkaiga sanctioned events, illegal mods or other forms of cheating. Anything of the sort. However, it is at the awards ceremony for the competition that 3 black helicopters began to approach the venue, prompting James to announce on all channels of his team's walkie-talkies. "Guys, there are unknown helicopters approaching the stadium." Acknowledged, James, he hears the voice of his assigned sensei, Aaron Zoe of the Knuckles tribe, reply, "Stay on your guard. You never know what might happen. Keep a kunai or shuriken at the ready, but only use jutsu if necessary." Copy that, dude. Dave's also voice calls out, "We got your back. If these guys are hostile, there's gonna be some good old-fashioned butt-kicking thrown in." "Irving here," stated the calm voice of Irving Satomi, a dirty blonde-haired lad with a cool and collected personality. "I can see the helicopters, as well. Let's not do anything rash until these unknowns declare their intentions here. Watch closely, but be wary." It is then that the helicopters stopped. Above the center of the stadium as they hovered. It is that the side doors on 2 of them opened, revealing door gunners with .50 caliber heavy machine guns, as the third, a transport, lands on the ground. Coming out of the transport helicopter's rear hatch are a number of men in blackish body armor and combat helmets, armed with assault rifles. Terrorists. James widened his eyes as he then noticed the terrorist sticking up the people at the winner's circle, his brother among them, as he then witnessed what appears to be the leader take one of the mics into his hand. He speaks into it with a menacing tone. "People of Land of Angels, we are all holding you hostage in this stadium. What are our demands, you may ask? Simple. We want your king to hand us the Master Emerald, or else we kill you all. You might ask on what we intend to do with the Master Emerald. Well, here is our answer. It's none of your business. Oh, and don't anybody try to play hero, or we kill everyone. James quietly whispers into his walkie-talkie. Sensei, when do we strike? Aaron Zoe replied, not yet, James. Not with those door gunners poised to shoot anything and everything. I'm sure that something will give so that we could intervene. For the moment, maintain your position, over. I'll also call for backup. The young Genin nodded, before replying, Roger that, James out, as he continued to observe the intense situation at hand. A few minutes later, the helicopters with the door gunners suddenly exploded into smithereens, killing the air crew inside both vehicles, especially the door gunners, as a squad of Chaos Anbu then appeared and started attacking the terrorists that were sticking up the hostages at the winner's circle. James and the other members of Team 14 took the opportunity and got out onto the stadium. As they then escorted the prisoners to safety. As they were escorting the rescued, James asked his brother, they didn't hurt you too badly, did they? Cam, who resembles a teenaged version of James, replied, relax. Little bro. All they did is poke us with their assault rifles and made us keep our hands behind our heads. Thanks for the save, man. The younger Rosen sibling smiled and nodded. Before hearing a war cry and footsteps drawing close and fast, James turned around quickly to see a terrorist charging at him with a knife, as he then threw some Senbon at the rapscallion, disabling him. The terrorist is then thrown out through the stadium's exit doors, and furthering his bad day, are a pair of Chaos Anbu waiting for him. Meanwhile, back in the stadium, the surviving terrorists, along with their leader, were arrested by the Chaos Anbu and are taken away to be interrogated. Their transport helicopter was also destroyed in the fracas. The awards ceremony resumed without any further interruptions. Later, after the games, Team 14 completed their security job and earned their pay. James returned home from the mission to his house in the residential neighborhood of Emerald Woods, ready to enjoy some peace and quiet as he played on his Sega Electronic Comics touchpad toy. Of course, he had a bit of a talk concerning the mission at the Extreme Gear Games at dinner, as the parents mentioned that they had seen a news report of the incident on TV earlier. He was expecting to be given a tongue lashing for nearly getting himself killed when the terrorists showed up. Instead, they were proud of how their son handled the situation. Chapter 1 End. Info time. Mobotropolis Ninja Academy, one of multiple ninja academies that were set up throughout Land of Angels, with an emphasis on high learning and training standards. The instructors, like with the other academies, are handpicked by King Naruto, based on how well they can teach and treat their charges during lessons. It also has a very well-equipped rec room for those who are on break, as well as a recess area outside the building for younger students. On the walls of the hallways are motivational posters, as well as posters that make humorous jabs at Konoha's Ninja Academy for its lowered standards due to the civilian council's meddling in shinobi affairs. Tienkega, Tenshi no Kuni Extreme Gear Association, formed in response to the surging popularity of extreme gears throughout Land of Angels. It is a sanctioning body that holds many competitions, from races to freestyle contests. However, the biggest competition held by the Tienkega is the Extreme Gear National Championships, where the best of the best gather to prove themselves worthy of being number one. They have a zero-tolerance policy against any form of cheating, especially sabotage or even bribery. Plus, sports betting is also prohibited at official Tienkega-hosted events. Chaos Anbu, the elite of Land of Angels ninjas, handpick. Ed by King Naruto Mizukami himself for their skills. Like with Konoha Anbu, Chaos Anbu work in teams, each led by a squad captain. While they have standard Anbu wear, their masks is what makes them stand out. Chaos Anbu masks have no animal motif, and with intimidating eyeholes like the narrowed eyes of a predatory animal ready to strike. Squad captains wear masks that have the forehead protector symbol emblazoned upon them. It is said that the Chaos Anbu squads take their mission more seriously and are quite professional. Sega Electronic Comics. Please note, it is a product by Sega Toys Th. It was never released in real life beyond prototype stage. The electronic comics is an interactive touchpad system with an array of pressure-sensitive sensors, on which special, tailor-made comic books would be placed. And the user could place his/her fingertip on one of 200 touch points per page to direct the story. As the user reads through the comic book, he/she can fight off villains, enter secret codes, and make decisions. All by pressing a touch point on an active page. Each comic book also comes with a cartridge, which contains the data needed to play that comic on the system. Emerald D. Woods, a residential neighborhood in the same area of the continent as Mobotropolis. It is where James Rosen, a genin of Team 14, lived since his family moved into Mobotropolis. It is considered a very nice place to live, and is always secure at night, due to ninjas who are assigned in a neighborhood watch program. That's all for info time. See you in the next chapter. I liked Naruto the Next Chaos so much that I wanted to do my own side story to it, which is why I made this. Oh, and I apologize for how short chapter 1 is, because I wasn't sure on what to make it about. Constructive criticism is appreciated. Edit. I just realized that I spelled James's name in one of the last sentences as Jason. My mistake. Chapter 2. Disclaimer. I do not own Soul Sonic Resonance 25, King Sora 3's story, Naruto the Next Chaos. Nor do I own the rights to the Naruto or Sonic the Hedgehog franchises. This is a fanfiction written for non-profit entertainment purposes under the Fair Use Act. Land of N. Gel's Side Story. Team 14 by Alken Blader. Chapter 2. Delivery of the Super Warp Ring. About a week after the Extreme Gear Games incident, we see Team 14 undergoing jutsu training under the supervision of their sensei. With each of the genin practicing jutsus relegated to their elemental affinities. James, having a water affinity, is practicing a C-rank water jutsu from a scroll provided to him. Dave, having a wind affinity, is giving it his all in performing a wind jutsu that he is learning. Boasting a fire affinity, Irving is perfecting a fire jutsu while making sure not to accidentally burn anything or anybody. Aaron Zoe looked on with pride for his students at how much they have grown since they first entered his tutelage. It is then that a Chunin appeared via Shunshin and said to him, Aaron Zoe, Team 14 is to report to Castle Mizukami for a new assignment immediately. Aaron Zoe nodded, before turning to his assigned charges and saying to them, Okay, boys. That's enough for now, we're going to Castle Mizukami. Irving nodded, as he remarked, What mission would they have for us today, I wonder? Dave replied eagerly, Who knows, but I'm certainly getting the hang of this new wind jutsu. I bet I can blow away a few bad guys with it. Yeah, started James with a smirk, my water jutsu will leave him soaking wet with defeat, but anyways, let's see what our new mission is from his royal awesomeness. Aaron Zoe takes a warp ring off of his middle finger, and activates it, creating a portal that leads to the entrance of Castle Mizukami. He and his students jump through the portal, and on the other side, land on their feet. The portal closes, as Aaron Zoe retrieves his ring and puts it back on his middle finger. At the front doors of the palace are two Chaos Anbu guards, one of which addressing Team 14. The king has been expecting you, come in, as he and his partner opened the doors. Another Chaos Anbu appears and leads Team 14 through the hallways of the castle to the throne room, where King Naruto Mizukami and his fiancée, Lady Tikal, sit enthroned. The team came up within a few feet of them, and knelt before them respectfully. Your Majesty, started Aaron Zoe before asking, What is our assignment to do as you bid? Naruto smiled, before explaining, Your latest assignment is to deliver a Super Warp Ring prototype to the Chaos Anbu base in Sandopolis Zone. As he then tosses Aaron Zoe a scroll before continuing, the mission details are in this scroll. It also has directions to the base, and when you finish reading it, you are to burn it immediately. Oh, that it doesn't fall into the hands of any potential spies, traitors, etc. Aaron Zoe, a tan-skinned man with dark brown dreadlocks, nodded with a serious look on his face before replying, Yes, Your Majesty. It is then that Lady Tikal adds with a warning tone, During your mission, Team 14, be aware that we have been receiving reports of suspicious individuals being present in Land of Angels, and our forces have been covertly monitoring their movements. Considering what had happened at the Mobotropolis Extreme Gear Games, this shouldn't be too surprising. However, We have no idea on what they may be after, Master Emerald decides. What they're up to and when they may strike, so be on your guard. Do not let the super warp ring fall into the wrong hands, Team 14. Ensure its safe delivery at all costs. Also, a reminder that the pyramids are off limits. All 4 members of the team nodded, as another Chaos Anbu comes into view and hands Aaron Zoe a heavy-duty looking briefcase, which no doubt contains the super warp ring. Pav change. James Rosen. Oh, man, of all the places to deliver a super warp ring, or better yet, set up a Chaos Anbu base, why does it have to be in Sandopolis? It's pretty darned hot there, it is. With lots and lots of sand and ancient ruins. Plus, I also heard rumors that the king made the pyramids there off limits to even the archaeologists because there's a bunch of nasty ghosts in them. I'm not sure whether or not that's true. And on top of that, air conditioners and water bottles sell really well in Sandopolis City. Oh, and when we ended the team meeting, and Aaron Sensei sent us home to prepare for the mission, he reminded us to pack a reasonable amount of drinking water for the duration of this thing, so that we won't die from dehydration. And there's another thing that's got me deep in thought. Lady Tikal mentioned reports of suspicious individuals being present on the island. This can't be good. I can only hope we don't run into these guys. Damn it, I think I might have jinxed it. We'll have to see when we do this delivery job. But if we do run into these intruders, we're going to have to do some serious butt kicking to knock them out of commission. It'd be really bad if they got their grubby hands on the super warp ring. We're not gonna to let that happen. The next day, me, Irving and Dave met up with Aaron Sensei. He unfurls the mission scroll he's gotten from His Royal Awesomeness and Lady Tikal as he then read through the thing, right before he had Irving burn it to cinders with a fireball jutsu. Sensei then used his RP ring to open a portal to Sandopolis Zone, as the 4 of us then jumped into it. In that instant, we're in the hot desert sands of Sandopolis, even as Sensei retrieves his warp ring and puts it back on his finger. Oh, and we made sure to keep that heavy-duty briefcase with us, because it contains that super warp ring. Speaking of which, word on the street is that the super warp ring can break through dimensional boundaries, allowing the user to warp into alternate dimensions. How cool is that? Anyways, as we trudged through the vast desert, it took all of my patience to keep myself from laning about how hot it is or ask about how long is the mission going to take and stuff. Man, I could have brought my Sega Electronic comics with me in case we take a break on the way to the Chaos Anbu base. However, we also kept a lookout for anything or anybody that might come jumping out at us and possibly snatch that super warp ring out of our hands. For the most part, nothing major appeared to have happened. However, that false sense of security faded away when our danger senses went off. We hear the sound of a rocket hurtling towards us, and we manage to get out of the way in time as it exploded into a fireball. Looks like we have some unwelcome guests. So, the 4 of us got close together in defensive stances, as Aaron Sensei called out warningly to where the rocket came from, "Come out and show yourselves." Coming into view are a squadron of gun-toting GUN soldiers, accompanied by 3 rocket beetle attack bots. Seriously, what's going on? Land of Angels and GUN signed a non-aggression treaty right after the Black Arms invasion, and now some GUN operatives are attacking us. What the hell, man? Aaron Sensei growled at them with narrowed eyes while tightly clutching some shuriken in his left hand. Dave made one step forward as he demands to the assholes, "What the hell, you guys? We signed a non-aggression treaty, so why are you attacking us?" One of the soldiers answered, "We want that shiny super warp ring, so hand it over and shove off, or we'll be forced to open fire," as he and his friends point their submachine guns at us. I turned to Irving and mouthed to him, "You might want to call in some backup, so do us all a favor and launch one of those signal flares to alert the Chaos Anbu stationed here in Sandopolis to save our skins." He nodded, before pulling out a signal flare. But this is a special kind of signal flare that alerts Chaos Anbu operatives. He quickly fired it upwards, also getting those GUN goons distracted. We then got onto those guys and began our attack. Starting things off, Aaron Sensei disarmed the soldiers by throwing shuriken at their weapons. Before any of these bastards could retaliate, I threw in a smoke bomb, creating a smokescreen that renders these guys blind to their surroundings. Dave and I slipped into the smokescreen, and using taijutsu, we punched, kicked, elbowed and kneed them off of their feet. We then wrapped them up real tightly in ninja wire so that they can't escape. While that was happening, Eren Sensei and Irving attacked the rocket beetles. Sensei uses a wickedly sharp katana blade to slice one in half, causing it to explode into pieces, while Irving used his fireball jutsu to fry another one of those buggers into scrap metal. In sweet teamwork maneuver, the two of them EAC threw two kunai knives into the tubes of the last robot's rocket launcher, jamming it. This caused the weapon to explode when the rocket beetle tried to fire it, also destroying that bucket of bolts. At that moment, a squad of Chaos Anbu appeared in a blur before us. Eren Sensei went over to them and explained what had happened. The GUN soldiers were taken into custody, along with what was left of the rocket beetles. Hey, if any footage got caught on their camera sensors, it can be used as evidence. After all that action, we're free to continue on with our mission to deliver the Super Warp Ring. Man, I could have just handed over the Super Warp Ring to that Chaos Anbu squad and end it right there. Ah, well, so, a couple hours later, we arrived at the Chaos Anbu base and handed the briefcase to that squad captain from before. He also invited us inside the base so that we could rest from the journey, on the condition that we keep quiet about where the base itself is located. During our short stay, Eren Sensei wrote up the mission report to hand to the king when we get back to Castle Mizukami. After we're all fully rejuvenated, we're ready to return to the castle so that we let his royal awesomeness know that the mission's successful, so we warped there. We soon arrived at the throne room to find Naruto, Lady Tikal and wait, what? The GUN commander. Anyways, he gave an explanation that apparently some corrupt platoon commander within GUN had planted spies within our ninja forces to steal information on us for his own selfish intentions. He had used the terrorist attack at the Extreme Gear Games as a distraction. He wanted to use the Super Warp Ring's technology for his sinister plans. But now, he and his goons are in seriously hot water. They are, alone with the guys that he had sent out to steal the Super Warp Ring from us. When I asked about the spies, the king replied, "Don't worry about them, Jen and Rosen, they've been rooted out while you and your team were on duty." Right as the commander then added, "Not only that, but I will have a few words to say to that traitorous platoon commander, whose actions posed a serious threat to the Treaty B. Between my organization and Land of Angels military forces." Eren Sensei then handed the king the mission report, as we then left the palace, satisfied that our mission had come to a close on a good note. What a great adventure that was. Chapter 2 End. Info time. Warp Ring. A ring empowered with chaos energy that can be used to travel from one place to another in an instant. How it works. Whatever place that the user thinks about, the warp ring reacts to those thoughts, creating a portal to that desired area. Invented by Naruto Mizukami, it is usually the quickest way to get around the island. When not in use, the warp ring can be worn around the user's finger like a regular ring. Super Warp Ring. A more advanced variation of the standard warp ring, it is powerful enough to break through dimensional boundaries, allowing the user to travel to alternate dimensions. However, the time it takes to manufacture a single unit is longer than with a regular warp ring, as they are hand-assembled by King Naruto Mizukami himself. As a result, very few super warp rings were made at a time, and he can be very particularly about who he gives them to. Like with the standard warp ring, it can be worn on the finger when not in use. That's all for info time. See you next time. It took me a little while, because I had to do some head scratching on and turning to other people about what to make the chapter about. I was going to have Kisame Hoshigaki show up and declare that he wants to challenge Naruto to see who is the master of water. But I figured that he'd be too strong for Team 14 to take on. So, I went to King Sora 3 to ask him about who I should pit Team 14 against in the delivery mission. He suggested GUN operatives, so I went with that. As always, constructive criticism is appreciated. Chapter 3. Disclaimer. I do not own Soul Sonic Resonance 25 King Sora 3's story, Naruto the Next Chaos, nor do I own the rights to Naruto or Sonic the Hedgehog. This crossover fanfiction is made under the Fair Use Act. Land of Angels side story. Team 14 by Alkan Blader. Chapter 3. Extreme Gear Trick-Off at Pumpkin Hill. Pav. James Rosen. After that big, exciting mission to deliver THE Super Warp Ring to the Chaos Anbu base, Eren Sensei figured that we'll take things easy for a little while. Along with taking those D-rank missions with my teammates, I'm also doing extreme gear stuff. My weapon of choice as a rider is the skill booster. Even though it won't get as much gravity power out of tricks like most other extreme gears that are out on the market at the moment, it's got great handling, acceleration, speed and power for its class. You won't get much better than this, unless it's a custom-made gear like those the king makes occasionally in the royal workshop of Castle Mizukami. My brother Cameron uses a legend gear, especially in competitive riding, and he's one of the very best riders out of Mobotropolis. While we're on the topic of extreme gears, I was posting on the Extreme Gear Forum, a message board where riders from all over talk about all things extreme gear, when I noticed a forum topic about a gear park asterisk that's recently opened up in Pumpkin Hill. I heard of that place, Pumpkin Hill. It's got all these rock formations with these giant rocky jack-o'-lanterns on them, along with gravestones, jack-o'-lanterns, an abandoned church on the top of a hill, and ghosts. It's haunted. Basically, something like on Halloween. Why would anybody want to open up a gear park at that creepy place? I sincerely and totally doubt that His Royal Awesomeness would have approved of it. But, I was also curious. So, I got into the forum topic about the new gear park, and wow, there's a whole bunch of replies on there. Some of those had photos put in by riders that had been there. Some complained about how these goony ghosts kept harassing them while they were trying to land a cool trick, or going on about having had a blast grinding on this old sky rail system that is in the area. Some people even said that they told scary stories to each other around the glow of a lantern or a flashlight at the abandoned church. Along with the sky rails, the one thing the gear park mentioned that got my attention the most, the so-called monster ramp, this huge-ass ramp that starts on top of the highest hill in the park but not the area of Pumpkin Hill as a that allows even the heaviest and slowest extreme gears to get some seriously big hang time. Plus, it even allows air ride type gears to glide and fly longer, too. This makes me excited, but at the same time, nervous. The gear park is in a place known for being haunted by a bunch of freaky ghosts, but has some seriously sweet things to ride in, especially the sky rails. Maybe I'll ask Cam to take the both of us there. So I went over to his bedroom door and knocked on it. It's open, I hear his voice say, as I opened the door and walked inside. I see Cam sitting on his bed as he looked over the latest issue of the official Tienkega Extreme Gear magazine, Riders Asterisk, as he then asked me, "So, what's up, little bro?" I replied to him, "I found out that there's a new gear park that's recently opened up at Pumpkin Hill. I'm kinda excited about going there, but at the same time, I'm kinda nervous because I hear that Pumpkin Hill is haunted. Some people were complaining on the forum about having ghosts bothering them as they tried to pull off their best tricks. Plus, there's an old sky rail system in the area that people had been grinding on for a real blast. Not only that, there's also a massive ramp that you can get some huge air time with." He smiled. "Cool. I've been reading about it in this month's issue of Riders magazine," as he then puts the magazine down and grabs his legend gear in its briefcase mode, mind you, as he then gets off of the bed. Cam then asked me, "So, you wanna warp to Pumpkin Hill and have a blast?" I thought hard, very hard, for a few seconds or so, before gulping and replying, "Hold on and let me retrieve my gear," right before I returned to my room and found my skill booster in its briefcase form. I then met up with Cam in the hallway as I said to him, "I'm ready to go." Bro. Pav change. Third person. A certain pink-haired girl is at the Pumpkin Hill Gear Park, humming a merry tune to herself as she made adjustments to her custom extreme gear that Naruto made for her, the Pink Rose. With that done, she is ready to tackle the sky rails. Meanwhile, James and Cam arrived at the entrance of Pumpkin Hill via Warp Ring, as they noticed the new gear park nearby. It has ramps, rails, half-pipes, and on the outer perimeter of the area, a racing track. There is also a pathway that leads to the sky rail system. However, Sticking out like a sore thumb is the much-discussed monster ramp, which is several stories in height and is about 300 yards more or less in length. A ramp like that would indeed make for some serious air time for any rider. Even with the heaviest extreme gear. Cam smiled. James, look at this place, it's wicked. It's got all the usual gear park wares, but with the bonus of the Pumpkin Hill sky rails and that big O monster ramp. Let's ride. James nodded somewhat hesitantly as he and his older sibling went to the entrance of the gear park, paid their entry fees and stepped into the area, where they see many riders having a good time as they raced and or performed tricks with their extreme gears. Some riders are also coming from the pathway that leads to the sky rails, as some of the chatting about how much fun that they had grinding on it or complaining about how they nearly fell off the rails due to having acrophobia, fear of heights, but still managed to make it out unscathed. James also noticed Amy Rose walking towards the main park with her gear in hand, as he remarked to his brother, Cam, that's Amy Rose. She's one of the freedom fighters. Make her mad and she'll flatten you with her Pico hammer. Ouch. She's also a pretty popular and skilled competitive rider, having gained many high-placed finishes in official Tienkega competitions. She's even featured in at least one issue of Riders, as well. Her extreme gear, the Pink Rose, is a custom jobby by His Royal Awesomeness. Well, Cam said with a smirk, let's go over and meet her, then. Maybe we could even get her autograph. Hold it just a minute, you two, cried a new voice from behind the two brothers, who turned around to see a boy about James's age. This individual is wearing a black sweat jacket with white strips running down the left sleeve, and on the right shoulder is a patch depicting a skull and cross gears symbol, a skull and crossbones but with board-type extreme gears instead of the crossbones. On his hands, he wears a pair of black, fingerless gloves with metal plates on the forehands, along with blue denim jeans and black sneakers with ash-gray laces. His head is a black ball style cap and a pair of sunglasses over his eyes. He also has a fair skin tone with messy brown hair underneath the cap. Who are you anyways, man? Asked Cameron as he crossed his arms. The newcomer replied, my name is Jasper Blackwood. They call me Black Jasper, like in the crystal. I'm part of the Black Gems team. The Black Gems, started James with a whistle. Well, I've certainly read about you lot on the Extreme Gear forum. They say that you're really brave, especially when attempting highly difficult tricks with a fast and furious style, and that you tend to make yourselves felt during races at Tienkega competitions. So, what do you want with us? The now identified Black Jasper gave a smirk as he answered, I want to challenge one of you two to a trick off, here in Pumpkin Hill. The loser gets to treat the winner to lunch at PJ Pizzazz. The younger Rosen brother was about to step forward, when he hears his sibling say, James, let me handle him. Cam stepped forward, giving Black Jasper a determined look while activating his legend, holding the board-type gear under his arm. He says to the black-wearing rider, if you want, Black Jasper, I'll be your opponent. I'm one of the best out of Mobotropolis. After all. Black Jasper nodded, before remarking, now I recognize you. You're Cameron Rosen. I saw you on TV competing at the Mobotropolis Extreme Gear Games. With that terrorist attack that had happened. Good thing you're alive and well to challenge me, because the Black Gems love a good challenge, and as a member, I'm no exception. Thus, the two Rivelin G riders went over to the nearest half-pipe area, as each of them took up a position on opposing sides. Black Jasper activates his extreme gear, an airship, which features the yacht gear part, allowing it to transition into a yacht type. This allows the rider to draft behind opponents by riding and accelerating on slipstreams. Cam remarked, so, an airship, I reckon you might go for a gear change into yacht type during this thing. At which Black Jasper replied, nah, I'll keep it in board type form. In fact, I removed the yacht gear part for this occasion and swapped in a grind gear part. What have you in mind? It's a secret, but let's start this already, said Cam as he and Black Jasper got onto their gear and started off their one-on-one challenge. A crowd gathered around the half-pipe, with James being one of the spectators. They cheered as the two performed some wicked cool tricks with their gear in a bid to one-up each other. Flips, grabs, ollies, grinds, you name it. even rotations up to 900 degrees or more. As James cheered for his brother, he hears a female voice to his left ask him, "Your brother's really good, isn't he?" He replied with a smile, "Ah, yes. He's one of Mobotropolis's brightest stars today," before covering his mouth with his hands in shock, realizing whose voice he had replied to. He turned to his left to see the smiling face of Amy Rose, who waved hello to him. "Ah, Miss Rose. Cam and I were going to see if we could get your autograph when Black Jasper showed up and declared his challenge," said James as he waved back. She replied to him, "Oh, the freedom fighters were going through the mission reports for the week, and I gotta say, your team's been doing great. So, as my own little reward from me, I'll give you my autograph," as James then handed her his skill booster gear, currently in its board-type form. She signs it with a marker before giving the gear back to its owner. He looked at the autograph with a smile and it reads, "Keep up the good work. Signed, Amy Rose." James turned around to thank Amy for the autograph, when he finds that she had already left. Shrugging, he continued to watch the intense action of Cam and Black Jasper's trick duel. Just as the two riders finished up the coolest tricks they could devise for the finale, and were about to ask the audience who they think deserves to be called the winner, the Atmos. Fear of the half-pipe suddenly grows cold in an ominous fashion. Jasper, it's gone cold," said Cam as he shivered a little, as his opponent replied with a shiver, yeah. Brr, not only that, but something's not right." All of a sudden, a large boom boo, not King Boom Boo, mind you, appeared behind the two, lets out a ghastly, ghoulish roar that caused the two to jump up in fear at a rather high altitude. Just as the boom boo was about to torment the now terrified crowd, something struck the top of its head very hard. Two somethings, actually. It was Cam and Black Jasper, who slammed their board-type gears onto the boom boo's head as improvised bludgeoning weapons. This dazed the ghoulish ghost, also making it shrink down in size from the harsh impact. Regaining its senses, it turned towards the two riders, who held their gears threateningly, as if intending to bludgeon it again. With a dismayed cry, it disappeared from view as the atmosphere of the half-pipe lightened up. "Yeah, run on home to your mama, you coward," crowed Black Jasper at his and Cam's triumph over the specter, as the latter puts a hand on the Black Gem rider's shoulder with a smirk. Cam then asked the crowd, "So, who do you think won this trick off? Me, or Black Jasper of the Black Gems team? Let's put that to a vote. Those of you who think I won, raise your hands." At this, half of the crowd, including James, raised their hand. Black Jasper nodded, before asking everybody, "Those who think that I won, give me a thumbs up sign." The other half of the crowd gave thumbs ups. So, Cam counted the voters, and after a moment or two, he determined, "It's dead even. Quite a divided crowd, isn't it?" asked Black Jasper as he deactivates his airship gear into its briefcase mode. "Not only that, but I think I had enough excitement for today. I'll see you around." The rider then takes out a warp ring and uses it to leave the gear park altogether. After all that hullabaloo, James and Cam decided they had a big enough blast at the gear park for today, as they too warped back to their home. Chapter 3 End. Info time. Extreme Gear Forum. A internet message board that caters to extreme gear riders and enthusiasts. Made by riders for riders. Gear park. General term for a recreational area designated and equipped for extreme gear riding. Riders. The official extreme gear magazine authorized by the TNKEGA. Featuring anything and everything that's got to do with extreme gears. There's always something new on each month's issue, such as new releases, interviews with professional riders, maintenance tips and even new tricks. Some issues even come included with promotional material. Black Gems. A fearless young group of local riders based in the same area as Pumpkin Hill. They are known for their fast and furious riding style at TNKEGA sanctioned competitions, whether racing or freestyling. Each member bears a personal handle named after blackish-colored crystals and gems, i.e. Black Jasper. It is also one of the very few extreme gear riding teams to have more than 3 members in their roster, though at competitions, they follow the 3-team riders at a time rule. Before they compete, the Black Gems decide on which 3 of their members would go and enter the competition. P.J. Pizzazz, A. Chuck E. Cheese's-style entertainment venue that features a robot mascot PJ, who greets customers at the entrance. The place features redemption games such as skee ball, pinball machines, and arcade video games. For one token, younger kids can play in the ball pit or inflatable bounce house. Pizza was also made and served in the restaurant section of the venue. Note: PJ Pizzazz was an actual venue in real life. It was started in June 1980 as Sega's answer to the popular Pizza Time theater chain, and was operated in the Eastland Center shopping mall in West Covina, California. PJ Pizzazz was ultimately never franchised by Sega, and the location at the Eastland Center Mall was the only one built. It was eventually closed down somewhere in the mid-1980s. That's all for info time. See you next time. Okay, so I went to Kingsora 3 about what to make Chapter 3 about. He suggested that James check out Pumpkin Hill, and I wanted to do an Extreme Gear related scenario, so I decided to combine the two ideas. As always, constructive criticism is most appreciated. Part 1. Disclaimer: I do not own Soul Sonic Resonance 25 Kingsora 3's fanfic, Naruto the Next Chaos, nor do I own the rights to Sonic the Hedgehog or Naruto. This crossover fanfiction side story is made for non-profit entertainment purposes under the Fair Use Act. Land of Angels side story. Team 14 by Alkend Blader. Chapter 4. Crush 40 Concert in Station Square. Part 1. Starting POV. James Rosen. Okay, so lately I've been saving up rings from doing missions and finding them in some of the zones I go to in my free time, so that I could buy myself a concert ticket. Whose concert I'm attending? Who else? Crush 40. The coolest freaking band ever. Not only that, but the concert is also being held at an Extreme Gear freestyle competition that's going down in Station Square. So, me and Cam decided at all watch the concert while he competes in the contest. So, I went to the nearest ticket distributor in town and bought my concert ticket for about 500 rings. Not too bad, really. I also grabbed an entry form sheet for the Extreme Gear competition so that Cam could sign up and we'll be good to go. The concert Extreme Gear contest is going to start in a couple of weeks, so Cam has all the time to prepare, and I'll have some missions and ninja training to do before then. I'll have quite a bit of work to do, and it's not just the D-rank missions and training, either. I'm also doing chores around the house, like taking out the trash, drying the dishes, vacuuming the floor or cleaning my bedroom. Not only that, but I also helped my mom out in her gardening, and she was appreciative of the help. Of course, my beloved pet Chow, Splashy, was also a great help. On the topic of Splashy, I raised him from a very rare metallic blue Chow egg. I was lucky on that one. With the proper care and treatment, I made it so that he's good running and flying, but also a great swimmer. Plus, he also likes it when I tickle his little belly. He's just too sweet like that. I'd be mad as a wet hen if I Veer let some asshole touch as much as one little area of skin on Splashy. I'd punch him in the gut and kick him in the, you get the picture. I care that much about Splashy as to thrash anybody who tries to kidnap him. He also likes it when I give him huggy wuggies, as my mom would put it, because she absolutely adores the little fella. Plus, whenever I'm feeling down, he's always there for me, nuzzling me as I held him close. Well, enough about Splashy for now. Not only that, but if you think that having a soft spot means that I'm weak, then you're a cowardly jerkwad for thinking that way. Anyways, that weekend after the first week before the concert, I decided to warp to the Pumpkin Hill Gear Park so that I could try out the monster ramp. When I arrived, I paid the entry fee at the entrance and went towards a two-way short-distance teleporter 2WSDT system to the starting point of the monster ramp. I took the 2WSDT and found myself way up there. The monster raw MP is several stories high and about 300 yards long, after all, so what the hell do I expect, huh? I also noticed that a few riders are lined up, waiting for their turn to try the ramp. I got into the line, so that I could wait. About 15 or so minutes later, I'm up as I activated my skill booster. I got onto my plank and started my run on the monster ramp. For those of you who might think that I'm deathly afraid of heights, you're dead wrong. I was thrilled, as I picked up speed down the slope of this massive ramp, crouching to build up power for a jump to pull off a cool trick. When I reached the end of the ramp and jumped, I got off a lot of air time. Taking the opportunity, I started things off with a tail grab before going into a triple backflip. I then transitioned to a melon grab and D proceeded to rotate 180, 270, 360, 540, 720, 900, 1080 degrees. But I didn't stop there. I then ollied myself into a Benihana while doing another rotation, ending it at 900 degrees. The whole thing ended when I safely landed onto the ground in a fakie. Facing back towards the ramp in that way, I gave 2 thumbs up with a wide smile. What a thrill that is, until I hear a familiar voice say next to me. That was a pretty rad run out of you off the monster ramp, James Rosen. Maybe your brother should have let you challenge me last we met. I turned around to see the smiling, waving figure of Black Jasper. He then asked me, so, James, any plans you have? Like, oh, say, going to the Crush 40 concert? Well, yeah, I replied, while sheepishly rubbing a hand behind my head. As a matter of fact, Cam is going to enter the extreme gear competition that goes with it, while I watch the concert. Nice, he smirked, before adding with crossed arms, oh, and keep your eyes peeled during the concert, I hear there's going to be special guest artists performing there for the opening act, too. I don't know who it is that's going to perform, but whoever it is, I certainly hope that it's someone super cool. Special guests appearing and performing at the concert, Now that's got my attention. Thank you, Black Jasper, for sweetening the deal even further for me, but we'll have to see who it is come the day of the concert. Man, oh, freaking man, this is going to be way too damned cool. Pav change. Third person. Finally, the day of the Crush 40 concert Extreme Gear competition had come. James and Cameron warped to the Station Square Extreme Gear Arena, not wanting to miss anything. The Extreme Gear Arena is set up for a freestyle competition, with ramps, rails, half-pipes and the like. Along with a stage for the Crush 40 concert. As Cam joined up with the other riders in the Extreme Gear freestyle competition, James squeezed his way into the crowd for the concert. The young Rosen sibling had also brought along a mobile phone so that he could take pictures and/or record video footage of the concert. It is then that the announcer, an adult male in the kind of clothes associated with grunge music, walked onto the stage, took up a mic, and shouted into it, everybody. Are you ready to rock? At this, the crowd began to cheer wildly, especially James, who shouted, hell yeah. I'm ready to freaking rock. We want to freaking rock. Then, said the announcer, for the opening act of today's concert, we have special guest artists performing. Here's the really cool part. They come from really far away. Not just from outside the continent, mind you. We mean from an alternate world, and His Majesty, King Naruto Mizukami, brought him over here to perform for you all. The crowd cheered at this, as the announcer then continued, where they come from you might find hard to believe. They come from a world where these squid dudes and dudettes see all inklings battle each other in these 4-on-4 ink battles, called turf wars, for sport. First team to cover more ground in their color within 3 minutes is the winner. Matter of fact, the guest artists are inklings themselves. And they're hot, like in the hottest pop stars in the city of Inkopolis, where the turf wars are held. Now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let me introduce to you all to the one and only Squid sisters, Callie and Marie. At the last part, 2 figures walked onto the stage in sight of the crowd, who gave them welcoming applause. Both of them are adolescent girls. And while they do look humanoid, there are some differences. For one thing, they have pointed ears, and for another, they each have what appear to be squid tentacles-like hair. Not only that, but they each have a black area around their eyes like a mask. Their eyes are yellow with irises shaped like 4-pointed stars. Their getup is also befitting of pop stars, like those that occasionally hit the charts in certain cities in the continent. One has an edgy design in comparison to the other. Her tentacles, which are black with a pink gradient at the ends, are very long and tied in a large bow on the back of her head, leaving the ends to dangle. Her eye markings end in small points, and her eyebrows are large and oval-shaped. Her ears are a bit narrow, long, and upturned. And on them she wears a pair of chunky, milk-white earrings. Her outfit, which has no sleeves and ends in shorts, is black with a reflective texture. On the front are 3 pink marks, which, somewhat morbidly, are made to look like the cuts made in squid when it is cooked. With this outfit, she wears pink tights, white gloves, and a small, white, shirt collar necklace. On her feet, she wears a pair of black wedge shoes with a texture similar to leather, which have a shiny pink material on the bottom and 2 pink buttons on either side of the ankle. She wears a pink and white hat resembling ikeyaki on her head, and has a beauty mark on her left cheek. The other inkling pop star has a more sultry design in comparison to her counterpart. Her tentacles, which are milk white, are T-ed in a large bow on the right side of her head, with the ends wrapped around to the other side and curling up slightly at the ends with a green-gray gradient. Her eye markings end in small, slightly curved points, and her eyebrows are large and oval-shaped. Her ears are also narrow and long, and on them she wears a pair of chunky, milk-white earrings. Her outfit, which has no sleeves and ends in a skirt, is black with a reflective texture. On the front are 3 green marks, which, somewhat morbidly, are made to look like the cuts made in squid when it is cooked, and the inside skirt facing is also green. With this outfit, she wears green tights, black shorts, white gloves, and a small, white, shirt collar necklace. On her feet, she wears a pair of black wedge shoes with a texture similar to leather, which have a shiny green material on the bottom and 2 green buttons on either side of the ankle. She wears a green and white hat resembling a calamari ring, and has a beauty mark on her right cheek. These 2 inklings are the Squid Sisters, with Callie being the black tentacled one and her partner Marie being the one with the white tentacles. The announcer then hands the 2 each a microphone, as both inklings greet with a wave simultaneously. "Hello, station Square." The crowd cheered again, even as some took pics of the guest artists with their mobile phones, with James among them. He himself is interested in the newcomers, wanting to see what they could do. Meanwhile, Cam and several other talented extreme gear riders are waiting their turn to freestyle. The designated area for the freestyles has ramps, rails, loops and even half pipes, perfect for the ultimate trick-off. To be continued in part 2. The reason why I had the idea of having the Squid Sisters show up at a Crush 40 concert as special guest artists is because, right before Soul Sonic Resonance 25 died, I discussed with him the idea of a Splatoon crossover scenario in Naruto: The Next Chaos, and even did an omake over the PM system. And let me make one thing clear right away, that I was a bit hesitant in pulling that off here is because I didn't really want to raise any hopes for a Splatoon crossover scenario that may or may not happen in Naruto: The Next Chaos, but that would be up for Kingsora 3 to decide. Then again, he's also busy with college work. As always, constructive criticism is appreciated. Edit. Made a small correction. Part 2. Disclaimer. I do not own Soul Sonic Resonance 25 Kingsora 3's story, Naruto: The Next Chaos, nor do I own the rights to Naruto or Sonic the Hedgehog. This crossover fanfiction is written under the Fair Use Act. Land of Angels Side Story, Team 14. By Alkend Blader. Chapter 4. Crush 40 Concert in Station Square. Part 2. Starting POV. James Rosen. So, the Squid Sisters sang one of their hit songs for the opening act, titled, Ink Me Up, and I thought it was pretty cool. As for the Squid Sisters themselves, I thought that they were pretty hot, too, especially their catchphrase. Stay fresh. Oh, I'll be sure to stay fresh, alright. Now comes the main event. Crush 40's members are coming onto the stage to their respective instruments, as the announcer called out, alright. Ladies and gents, give it the hell up for Station Square's hottest band. CRUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUUU first song, and it's my favorite one, too. Live and Learn, BGM. Live and Learn, Crush 40. Can you feel life moving through your mind? Ooh, looks like it came back for more, yeah. Can you feel time slipping down your spine? Ooh, you try to ignore, yeah. I took a pic with my mobile phone, just as they are getting into the second verse of the song, as we all cheered a little. Also turn for a moment towards the Extreme Gear Freestyle contest to see that Cam is doing his awesome freestyle with his legend gear. I saw him doing a 900-degree roast beef grab of all things off a half pipe. Right before I turned back towards the concert. But you can hardly swallow your fears and pain. When you can't help but follow. It puts you right back where you came. Ah, yeah, getting to the part of the song where they say live and learn. And I can see where this is going, especially with the crowd. They're ready to shout that phrase when the band says it. I'm ready to do that, too. Live and learn. Hanging on to the edge of tomorrow, live and learn. From the works of yesterday, live and learn. If you beg or if you borrow, live and learn. You may never find your way. WHAAAAAOOOHHH. Oh, yeah. Everyone is really having a ball, and so am I. I had also noticed the Squid Sisters sitting nearby, with Callie dancing a little to the music while Marie just rolled her eyes with a small smile. Oh, here comes the next verse. Can you feel life tangle you up inside? Yeah, now you're face down on the floor. Oh, but you can't save your sorrow you've paid in trade. When you can't help but follow. It puts you right back where you came. I then turned my head to where the freestyle contest is, just to see how Cam is doing, and to my surprise, he's really killing it out there. He's pulled a couple of things from SSX on tour. As in monster tricks. I saw him doing a back-flipping donkey kick transitioning to a PT, with the contest spectators going wild. Man, by the time the contest ends, Big Bro's gonna have a high-placed finish. Live and learn. Hanging on the edge of tomorrow, live and learn. From the works of yesterday, live and learn. If you beg or if you borrow, live and learn. You may never find your way. Whoa. Oh yeah. Right when we got to the awesome guitar solo, I turned my head to look at the contest to again see how Cam's doing, only to see him rather high up in the eye. Performing another monster trick from SSX on tour. He starts out with a steppin' out before going into a steep, all while doing a rotation. And while he's still rotating, he switched it up and did a drop out to a chocolate thunder. You go, Cam. There's a face searchin' far, so far and wide. There's a place where you dreamed you'd never find. Hold on to what if. Hold on to what if. Live and learn. Hanging on the edge of tomorrow. Live and learn. From the works of yesterday, live and learn. If you beg or if you borrow, live and learn. You may never find your way. Live and learn. Hanging on the edge of tomorrow, live and learn. From the works of yesterday, live and learn. If you beg or if you borrow, live and learn. You may never find your way. Live and learn. Live and learn. At that point when the song finished, Cam had ended his freestyle, just as another person took his turn. We all cheered at Crush 40's performance, as they then started on another one of their hit songs, Open Your Heart. Pav change. Third person. The concert lasted a couple of hours, and by the time it ended, the Extreme Gear Freestyle contest had also ended. The Rosen brothers are on their way out of the Station Square Extreme Gear Arena. Satisfied with how the day went, James was stoked about how the concert turned out, and Cam is walking away with a gold trophy and a 2,000 ring cash prize. They were about to use the warp ring to return home, when James noticed a paper airplane flying towards him. He grabbed it out of the air, and noticed that it had a CD jewel case wedged in it. He examined the jewel case to see that it has the Squid Sisters logo on the front cover along with the word, promo. He had also noticed the words, read me, on the paper airplane. Cam suggests, why don't you open it and read it, dude? James nodded, as he then unfolded the paper airplane, revealing a message with the Squid Sisters logo on it. It reads, to whom it may concern. If you manage to grab one of these paper airplanes, then congrats. You're one of a few lucky people to receive a surprise from us, a Squid Sisters promotional music CD, as a souvenir for today's concert at the Extreme Gear Arena. Now, this CD contains a sampler of 3 of our songs, one of which being, Ink Me Up, which me and Marie sang to everyone at the concert. And here's some sweet news, there are plans afoot for a music fest. Ival between Land of Angels and Inkopolis. We're not going to reveal anything about it at the moment, as it's still in planning, but what we can say that it's going to be really awesome if this pulls through. Until then, stay fresh. Signed, Callie of the Squid Sisters. His eyes widened in surprise and delight, as Cam remarked with a smile, Wow, now this is too cool, dude. You got a sweet souvenir from those two squid chicks. James nodded in agreement, also smiling. He then says, to think you won the contest, Cam. That was a cool move on your part, using those tricks from SSX on tour and really dominating the competition. Also, you're loaded. I'm glad to have a winner like you for an older bro, dude. Yeah, Cam nodded. Anyways, let's return home. I bet mom and dad would be proud, CE they were also showing the contest on TV. He then activated his warp ring, generating a portal to Emerald Woods, as they stepped into it. As soon as they returned home, Cam found himself being hugged by Mr. and Mrs. Rosen in a bear hug of parental pride while James also gave a hearty laugh. The next day, James was on the Extreme Gear forum on his laptop, reading up on a forum topic concerning the events of the Extreme Gear Freestyle contest. As he figured out right away, some of the posts were talking about how Cam dominated the competition, while others were talking about the concert that went with the contest. Some are even posting about having received promotional music CDs from the Squid Sisters. He then heard a knock on the front door, as he got up and said, "I'll get it." James went up to the front door, and asked, "Who is it?" A female voice asked, "Is this the residence of Cameron Rosen? We would like to interview him." He answered the voice, "Yes, now I'll go get Cam," as he then went up to Cam's room and said to him, "Hey, bro. There's someone here to interview you." James heard his brother's voice reply to him, "Okay, I'll come on down in a second." Cam then came down the staircase. As he came up to the front door and opened it, revealing the last two people that both brothers would expect coming to their home. The Squid Sisters. James's eyes widened in surprise. He thought, "Oh, my God, it's the Squid Sisters, and they want to interview my brother." Quote, he says to them, "You two, thanks for that music CD the other day. I listened to it, and I gotta say, you've got some sweet material on there." Callie replied to him with her usual chipper tone, "No problem. We think at least one iota on this island should be allowed to listen to some of our music at any time, so we gave out those CDs. Marie then addressed Cam, "So, you're the winning rider at the Extreme Gear Freestyle contest, right?" "Oh, yeah," he said with a smirk, before asking, "If you would let me get my trophy. We can start the interview, right?" A few moments later, we see Cam sitting on a folding chair holding his trophy in one arm, being interviewed by the two Inklings as James watched on with brotherly pride. After about 45 minutes of answering questions for the two, the interview came to an end as Marie remarked, "I think that wraps things up." Cam nodded in agreement, as he waved goodbye to the Squid Sisters, who also waved back as they left the neighborhood. But that was not before Callie blew him a kiss with a wink, which Marie rolled her eyes at. Cam soon came back inside the house and closed the door behind him and his brother. Chapter 4 End. Hope you enjoyed this two-parter from the imaginative mind of Alkend Blader. Be sure to review if you can. Constructive criticism is appreciated. Laughing face. Part 1. Disclaimer. I do not own Soul Sonic Resonance 25 King Sora 3's story, Naruto the Next Chaos, nor do I own the rights to Naruto or Sonic the Hedgehog. This fanfiction is for non-profit entertainment purposes under the Fair Use Act. Land of Angels Side Story. Team 14. By Alkend Blader. Chapter 5. The Case of the 50s Family. Part 1. Starting POV. Dave Bromley. Hey, Dave here. As you probably know by now, I'm one of James's teammates alongside Irving and Aaron Sensei. It's cool being a ninja, but sometimes, you gotta take things seriously during those special kinds of missions. Thankfully, we do mostly D-rank missions with a few occasional C ranks, like that time we delivered that super warp ring to that Chaos Anbu base in Sandopolis. Speaking of which, we're not gonna be telling you readers anything about where that base is, so there. It would be a matter of time before we'll have to take the Chunin exams, though, depending on how we do. On the topic of missions, however, the situation behind this one was one of the strangest yet. It all started when we were undergoing taijutsu training in one of our usual team meetings, when a Chunin showed up and told Aaron Sensei that we're needed at Castle Mizukami. So, we stopped our training right there, and warped to the palace to get our mission assignment from the king. When we arrived at the front gates, those two Chaos Anbu guards escorted us to the throne room, where King Naruto Mizukami and Lady Tikal, his fiancée, were sitting. Me, the guys and Eren Sensei knelt before them respectfully, as Sensei asked His Majesty, "Your Majesty, what is our mission to do as you bid?" The king explained as he tossed Sensei a mission scroll. Team 14, this high D-ranked assignment has some, how do you say, unique circumstances behind it. The details for the mission are in the scroll. Sensei nodded with a serious face, before unfurling the scroll to read it. I noticed that as he read on, he raised an eyebrow. Wow, I've never seen Sensei raise an eyebrow while reading a mission scroll before. Whatever it is, something must really be up about our new mission. He then turned towards me and the guys and said to us, "You boys are going to want to see this," before passing the mission scroll to us. Irving was the first to read it, and he too raised an eyebrow at the contents, before he passed it over to James. He also read through the scroll, and just as he finished, I heard him say to himself, "This is too weird," before he absent-mindedly passed it over to me. I had also read through the scroll, and as I had done so, I thought to myself, what kind of mission is this? Quote, nevertheless, me and the guys accepted it. King Naruto then turned towards a nearby corridor, and calls out, "Chaos Anbu, bring them in." A professionally toned voice sounded out in reply, "Yes, Your Majesty." You would so totally not believe who the Chaos Anbu brought into the throne room, as they came into view. Pav change. Third person. Escorted into the throne room by a Chaos Anbu is a group of 4 people, 2 adults and 2 children. A family. However, it is what they are wearing is what got Team 14's attention. Their clothing comes straight from the 1950s. The adult male, who is most likely the family man, has a fair skin tone with neatly combed black hair. He is also wearing a gray flannel suit, a pair of eyeglasses, a hat on his head and black leather shoes. He also has a smoking pipe sticking out of one corner of his mouth. The woman, who happens to be the man's wife, also has a fair skin tone but is a brunette with her hair tied into a neat bun. She is also wearing a swing dress with a floral pattern and a pair of high-heeled shoes and gloves. In her right hand she is carrying a plain red purse, and has pink lipstick on her lips. The first child is a young boy about 10 years old. He has his mother's brunette hair but with his father's facial features. He is also wearing a pocket shirt with a pair of jeans and a pair of sneakers. The lad is also wearing a Stetson hat on his head. He is also playing with a wooden yo-yo. The second child is a young girl about a year younger than her brother. She also has her mother's facial features but with her father's blackish hair color. She is also wearing a 2-piece dress and shoes, along with a ribbon tied in a bow around her waist with the bow on the back. Her hair is formed into 2 pigtails. King Naruto got off of his throne and came up to the family, as he asked them, "Why not introduce yourselves to these ninjas? I've assigned them to keep you safe." The father nodded, before clearing his throat and introducing himself with a smile while adjusting his glasses. Hello. My name is John Whitaker. With me is my wife, Jean, and our children, Billy and Susie. The reason why we ended up here is because something strange happened while we were on our way to the drive-in to watch a film and enjoy some snacks. This strange flash of light brightened up in front of our car. I was forced to stop the car as it was getting too bright, and we had to cover our eyes to avoid getting blinded. When the light faded, we found ourselves someplace we've never seen or even read about before in National Geographic. That was when we met King Naruto and his elite Chaos Anbu ninjas, who had apparently noticed our sudden presence. The children also waved hello, as does Jean, who then remarked, "His Majesty said that he has the means to send us back to our time period, but I want to see what this place has to offer before we return home." King Naruto said to her with a smile, "Well, if you want to see what my kingdom has before you return home, then Team 14 will help you with that," before he and Tikal turned to the team itself. Tikal said to them, "Since the Whitakers here want to see the island before we let them return home to their time period, you will be given the task of being their tour guides for the next 5 days, essentially. By the end of each day before the last, you are to take them to the Grand Emerald Hotel in Central City, where they have a room prepared for them. On the last day, you are To take them to the Master Emerald Shrine where we'll create a portal that can send them home. Don't worry, we informed Kyler Yo ahead of time that you would be coming there. Do you understand your orders, team? 14. James, Dave, Irving and Aaron Zo nodded in understanding, as the Jonin replied, "Yes, Your Majesty and Lady Teakle. We will not fail." It is then that James turned towards Billy Whitaker and asks him, "So, kid, what do you do for fun back home?" Billy replied with a smile, "After dinner, Susie and I play jacks and watch cowboy movies on the television. Most of the time, however, I play with my Duncan yo-yo and showing off to my friends. I know a few good tricks myself, like rock the cradle and walk the dog." James smirked, as he then turned to Dave and asked, "Hey, Dave, YN. OT show off what you could do with that yo-yo." He answered with a confident grin, "I thought you'd never ask," as he then reached into his backpack and took out a yo-yo, but it wasn't anything like Billy had seen back home. It was very large at 76.9 millimeters in diameter and 60 millimeters in width. It was also blue and was made of low-friction Delrin plastic with metallic hubs on the side faces. It also had a large grooved ball-bearing axle and silicone response pads. This yo-yo is the Silverback King, an off-string yo-yo. Billy was awestruck by the appearance of the yo-yo, as he asked, "Golly, what is that thing? It looks too big to be a yo-yo." Dave explained, "This is the Silverback King, an off-string yo-yo. Off-string is a playing style where the yo-yo isn't tied to the string. The reason why it's much larger than the average yo-yo is because it makes it more visible and easier to catch on the string. This leads to a whole slew of tricks not possible with regular yo-yos." At this, Billy gasped, "Wow, that sounds amazing. Can you show us?" Dave nodded with a confident smile as he then wound up his yo-yo to start his routine. He starts things off with a forward pass throw transitioning to an ove rand whip to catch the yo-yo onto the string, before going into a bind. He then performed another forward pass throw with a mount, before he then proceeded to perform arm orbits, while saying to Billy, "Don't try this at home, kid." Susie, also watching, said with an eager smile, "I don't know if I can do tricks like these, but me and Billy did see something like that at a Duncan yo-yo demonstration." Of course, some people said that this is just a thing to lure kids into breaking their yo-yos and buying a new one. At this, Irving replied, "Well, in these modern times, off-string play isn't a marketing gimmick anymore. It's been considered a legitimate playing style. You're right about one thing. Off-string play is tricky if you don't have the reflexes. Of course, anybody can learn with the right yo-yo for the job." Meanwhile, Aaron Zo is discussing with Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker about some of the areas that he and his team would take them through during their stay in Land of Angels. He also points out to them that some areas are too dangerous for the Whitakers to go to, such as the Lava Reef Zone. "And that's how we're going to go about it for the mission, Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker," said Aaron Zo. "And we will do everything in our power as loyal ninjas of Land of Angels to ensure your safety, while still allowing you some entertainment at certain places." "Okay then, Mr. Zo." "No, Ded John," as he adjusted his eyeglasses again before asking, "So, where will we start in our whirlwind tour?" Aaron Zo explained with a smile and crossed arms, "We'll start here in Mobotropolis. It is the capital city of Land of Angels, where it is the center of King Naruto's rule. My 3 students graduated from the Ninja Academy here. It takes a combination of perseverance, fortitude, dedication, hard work and a strong mind to become a part of Land of Angels ninja forces. As such, they have high learning standards at this and many other academies on the island. The instructors working there are hand-picked by the king himself, based on how well they could teach and how they treat their students without spoiling them. Students at the academies undergo extensive training in all subjects from a young age. And if some of them are brave and willing enough with plenty of mental and emotional fortitude, they get to take classes in which they learn to resist even the most brutal torture and interrogation techniques. A frightening thought at the last part, but we want our ninjas to be ready for any situation to the best of their ability. Of course, there are as many people who choose to be civilians as those who attend the ninja academies to become ninjas. Don't underestimate the genin of Land of Angels, especially my assigned students. They may be children, but they took their training seriously. And they always know what they're doing. Being a ninja is serious business. That sounds dangerous, said Jean as she puts her hands to her mouth. At their age, they should have been doing things regular children do. Laughing and playing instead of undergoing dangerous missions where one wrong move would get them killed. I can assure you, Mrs. Whitaker, replied Aaron Zoe, my students can handle themselves. They had actually gotten into hostile situations before, and made it out of them alive. That's what they're trained to do. Day 1. Team 14 took them through the city of Mobotropolis, at which the Whitakers were amazed at the tall skyscrapers and futuristic automobiles driving along the roadways. Before they left Castle Mizukami, Naruto had also provided the team a quote-unquote pocket allowance of several thousand rings, as well as an Omochao unit. The first place that they went to in the city was the Mobotropolis Chao Garden, where the Whitakers had come to meet and learn about the Chao. Needless to say, Jean and Susie absolutely adored the little creatures. They had a good time playing with the little cuties, too. Just as they left, Billy remarked, golly, playing with those Chao was a lot of fun, and they really liked us. His father nodded in agreement with a smile, as he added, plus, your mother and Susie really loved them, too. If only we could take one home with us without the little fellow being taken away from us for scientific study by the people of our time period. Jean and Susie nodded in agreement, as the former then asked, where will we go next in such a marvelous city? There's a lot of things to do in Mobotropolis, said Aaron Zoe, but we can't do them all today, so we'll have to go to another area sometime soon today. How about we grab a bite to eat here in the city, before turning to Omochao? Omochao, got any suggestions on where to go for lunch today in the city? The small Chao bot guide replied with a chipper tone, why, yes. There are several places here in Mobotropolis where you could grab a bite to eat, such as the Boxcars Diner, 32X Barbecue, Mars Mexican, Pizza Hut, Daytona Drive-In and even GameWorks. I would recommend GameWorks, since there's always the great selection of arcade games along with its restaurant aspect. GameWorks, started John with a thinking pose, sounds to be swell joint. James explained, calling it a swell joint would only be putting it lightly, Mr. Whitaker. It's an entertainment venue with a lot of fun arcade games, a restaurant with great food, and for the grown-ups, a sports bar and grill. Customer service is excellent, too. I should know, since me and the guys went there occasionally. Knowing of all the things that GameWorks has to offer, would you Whitakers like to go there? The four nodded, as they all went to GameWorks. Thankfully, the team has their GameWorks cards with them, and they are charged up with credits. When they entered the building, the Whitakers were amazed at the large variety of arcade coin-op games set up. Some of the arcade games give out tickets that players can save up for prizes that are distributed at GameWorks. So, they went to the restaurant section for lunch, where they sat down on one of the tables. As John looked over the menu, he thought in amazement, my goodness, there's quite a variety. Just looking at this is making me hungrier by the minute. I can feel my mouth watering. Come on, John. Get a hold of yourself and order something for Pete's sake. Quote, Aaron Zoe, noticing his semi-thoughtful and semi-hungry state, whispers to him. You can order something that we can all share, like a pizza or some chicken wings. In reply, John gave the Jonin a thankful nod, before telling his wife and children, it's decided. We're going to have pizza for lunch here. The others nodded in agreement, just as a waitress then showed up and takes their order for a large pepperoni pizza. James then said to his sensei, how about us Jen and take the Whitaker kids to the arcade games to pass the time until the pizza arrives? Aaron Zoe smiled, before handing him a walkie-talkie as he then replied, when the pizza arrives at our table. I'll inform you guys via walkie-talkie, so you'll know to return, got it? The Genin nodded, before they and the Whitaker kids get up from the table and head off towards the arcade games, accompanied by Omochao. Just as they got to where the arcade games are, Omochao explained to Billy and Susie on how the GameWorks cards work. And don't worry, the games are on us, finished James with a smile. Before he then noticed a pair of San Francisco Rush 2049 Tournament Edition cabinets linked together in a two-player setup. He smirked, and I know where we can start, as he pointed out the cabinets. Rush 2049 Tay. Huh, started Dave with a smile. you're always a real shark at that game, knowing where to find the shortcuts. Rush 2049 Tay asked Billy, what's that? At this, Irving explained. San Francisco Rush 2049 is a racing game that takes place in a futuristic version of the city of San Francisco, in the year 2049. It features a realistic driving model, a variety of hidden shortcuts, spectacular crashes, and high-flying jumps. It also has a player tracking system, where you would enter a pin number on the keypad to save your progress on the game. The 2-ornament edition of this game was developed specifically for competitive gameplay, and is optimized for the Midway Tournament Network, an online gaming service that connects coin-op games via internet to track players' high scores and other achievements and send the information to a computer server. Midway, the gaming company that created this network, would then compare the scores from the game and award the top players with prizes. They would hold skill-based competitions for this game, where players would test their skills against each other for cash and other prizes. Players achieving the best high scores on this and other MTN-optimized games would gain fame on the official Midway website. GameWorks has their Tay cabinets connected to the network. Also, Tournament Edition also features new tracks not seen in the original version of the game. James is skilled at this game, but very rarely has he entered any competitions. He only played the game for the fun of it. Billy said amazed, wow. They offer cash prizes to winning players. That sounds great. Are there any competitions being held sometime in the near future? Not at the moment, little man, replied Dave. They had just held the last one a week ago. We can still play it offline, though, if you want. Billy nodded, as he and James sat down on the cabinet's seats while the latter used his GameWorks card to give credits and start the game. Meanwhile, Irving, Dave and Susie go over to an air hockey table. After about a half hour of playing games, they get the word from Aaron Zoe that the pizza is ready, thus they return to the restaurant to enjoy their lunch. Afterwards, they left GameWorks. Via Warp Ring, they traveled to the Mushroom Forest Zone, where they admired its natural beauty and have a little fun bouncing on the giant mushrooms like trampolines. This is really fun, said Billy as he bounced on one of the mushrooms, as James smirked, of course it is. Think you can bounce as high as you can. I'll catch you if needed. In response, Billy began to bounce as high as he could manage off of the mushroom until he reached a height of about 100 yards up. That is, until he began to fall headfirst towards the ground. At which James snapped into action and jumped up to catch him in his arms, which he did. As the Genin landed safely, Dave remarked as he clapped, "Nice catch, dude." "Thanks," nodded James, as Billy cried out enthusiastically, "Golly, that was amazing the way you could jump like that. It's almost as if you were flying." As the former sets the ladder down, he turned to see Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker clapping. He asks them, "So, you're not mad at me? I mean, I jumped pretty high to catch your son from hurting himself." We started John. "Not only was that such a feat for someone your age, but you also proved that you could handle a tense situation like that. This is nothing compared to what had happened at one time, Mr. Whitaker," said James as he crossed his arms and explained, "At one point, our team had to deliver a Super Warp Ring prototype to a Chaos Anbu base. We're not telling you where the base is, though, but what I can tell you is that we encountered some resistance during the mission. You see, Land of Angels has a non-aggression treaty and a military alliance with an international paramilitary organization known as the Guardian Unit of Nations, or GUN. You see, some rogue GUN operatives attacked us, trying to steal the Super Warp Ring, but we stopped them and turned them over to the Chaos Anbu. When we got back to Castle Mizukami to deliver the mission report, we saw the GUN commander there. He explained to us that this corrupt platoon commander within his organization had planted spies within our ninja forces to steal valuable information to use for his own selfish gain. He was the one who ordered the attempted theft of the Super Warp Ring. Not only that, but they managed to root out the spies among the ninjas and the common. Durr would go on to sort out that platoon commander, as that bloke's actions posed a serious threat to the treaty. Those rogue GUN troops had guns and armed attack robots and we sorted them out, we did. Man, you should have seen Aaron Sensei. he managed to cut one of the robots in half with a katana sword. At James's explanation of the Super Warp Ring mission, Jean gasped and remarked, "Oh, dear. I hope you didn't get shot." "Ma'am, we didn't. We disarmed those guys before taking them down," said Irving while keeping watch over Susie, who was also jumping on a giant mushroom. "We're trained for those kinds of situations during missions." "And by the way," started John before asking, "what is a super warp ring?" Aaron Zoe explained, "It is a more powerful variation of the standard warp ring, as it has enough power to break through dimensional boundaries, allowing the user to enter other alternate worlds. Of course, it can also be used like the regular warp ring, too. But, the King Nev makes too many super warp rings at a time, as they're more complex than a warp ring. It takes a steady hand and great engineering skill of his caliber to make a super warp ring. If he is to give a super warp ring to anybody, he tends to be very particular about who he gives it to." The group then went to a few other locations, the Ice Cap Zone, Station Square, the Bridge Zone and Green Hill Zone, throughout the day until sundown, at which they warped to Central City and went to the Grand Emerald Hotel. The Whitakers were amazed at how fancy and luxurious it is, as Aaron Zoe then asked them, "We all had a fine time, haven't we?" They nodded, as two Chaos Anbu appeared and said to them, "We're under orders to escort you lot to your room. Don't worry, Team 14 will see you again tomorrow." Thus, Team 14 and the Whitakers waved goodbye to each other, as they then went their separate ways, anticipating what may come the next day. To be continued in Part 2. Info time. Boxcar's Diner. A diner in Mobotropolis popular for its food and the motif of a railroad boxcar. Asterisk 32X Barbecue. A barbecue restaurant known for its variety of custom-crafted barbecue sauce formulas in different levels of flavor. The most popular of which being the Mars sauce, which is advertised as being 32 times better than any old barbecue sauce out there, and had won several awards. Its name is a reference to the Sega 32X add-on system that had failed miserably in the market. Mars Mexican. This restaurant serves Mexican food the good old-fashioned way, using only the best ingredients for their dishes. Named in reference to Cyber Troopers Virtual on Mars for the Sony PlayStation 2 console. Daytona Drive-In. A drive-in burger joint with a motorsports motif. Popular with both kids and adults alike, and a favorite of the Black Gems team from Pumpkin Hill. They are known to frequent the place whenever they scrounged up a victory at a Tienkega-sanctioned extreme gear competition. Named in reference to the Daytona USA racing game by Sega. Grand Emerald Hotel. A 5-star luxury hotel in Central City. Oh, and one more thing. The Midway Tournament Network, which San Francisco Rush 2049 Tay was made for, has been discontinued several years back. Of all the ideas that I have for this fanfiction, what you've read here has had to be one of my wildest ideas yet, a family from the 50s ending U.P. in Land of Angels and being taken on tour throughout the continent before being returned home via Master Emerald. I'm sure I'll come up with another good idea for the next scenario of this side story, right after I finish up on Part 2. Edit. I just realized that I used Pumpkin Hill twice in Chapter 5. My mistake. Chapter 5 Part 2. Disclaimer. I do not own Kinzora 3's story, Naruto the Next Chaos. Nor do I own the rights to Sonic the Hedgehog or Naruto. This side story is written under the Fair Use Act for non-profit entertainment purposes only. Land of Angels Side Story. Team 14 by Alkend Blader. Chapter 5. The Case of the 50s Family. Part 2. Day 2. Starting POV. James Rosen. Hey, James again. So, it's day 2 of the mission, so I got my stuff ready, met up with Dave, Irving and Aaron Sensei and warped to Central City. We then went over to the ever-luxurious Grand Emerald Hotel to pick up the Whitakers. We asked the receptionist for their room, which is on the 2nd floor. Couldn't the king have given them a room on the higher floor than that? Those Whitakers would have really enjoyed the nice views one can get on the much higher floors. So, we took the elevator to the 2nd floor so that we could greet them. I just love the Grand Emerald Hotel's elevators with their high-tech design. Plus, it has an MP3-based jukebox panel so you could listen to whatever you want while waiting to go to a higher floor. Along with a touchscreen control panel. Plus, The elevator is also air-conditioned, heated during winter. Just as the elevator stopped on the second floor and the doors opened, we walked out and went over to the door that had these two Chaos Anbu guarding it. "Morning, gentlemen," I greeted to them casually with a wave. "How are the Whitakers doing?" The Chaos Anbu replied, "They're doing fine. Genin, nothing to worry about," before the guy then turned to Eren Sensei and said to him, "By the way, the Whitakers are hoping that you and your team could join them for breakfast this morning." "Wow, that's great. Let's join them," replied Dave eagerly. When Irving said to him, "Dave, I think we should let Eren Sensei decide, don't you think?" "Yeah, alright," nodded Dave with a sigh. At which Eren Sensei puts a hand on his shoulder before turning to the Chaos Anbu and saying to him, "We would be happy to join them." At that, Dave perked up again. Right as we then met up with the Whitakers. We then went to the elevator and gone back down to the first floor, where we went to the cafeteria. The Whitakers are having some pancakes, eggs, and sausages, while we ninjas had waffles, bacon, and hash browns. Of course, we also had some milk and orange juice to drink. After that, we were ready to begin the day, as we went over a list of the locations that we're gonna go to for the day. It's not going to be in any particular order or anything, but it helps to be prepared for anything. The list of locations is as follows. Paradise Park Zone, formerly Scrap Brain Zone. Launch Base Zone. Sandopolis Zone. Knuckles Clan Homeland. Station Square. It is then that Mr. Whitaker asked, "What is this Scrap Brain Zone that Paradise Park used to be?" Eren Sensei explained. The Scrap Brain Zone was a massive industrial complex where Robotnik maintained multiple Badnik factories and a base of operations on South Island. It was there that King Naruto had put an end to Robotnik's plans. Right before he went to the Green Hill Zone and used the power of the Chaos Emeralds to merge South Island with what is now Land of Angels. "Who is Dr. Robotnik?" asked Mrs. Whitaker, at which Sensei's face grew rather grim. He explained, "Drive. Evo Robotnik is a mad genius with malicious intentions. He seeks to seize control over the entire world as his empire, and to enslave everyone by turning innocent people and animals into soulless robots. What's even more disturbing is that the roboticizer, which he uses for transforming his victims into robots, was a stolen invention. A scientist named Sir Charles had originally invented it for medical purposes, and had attempted to use it to make his brother Jules healthy again. However, the device robbed Jules of his free will. Thus Charles abandoned the project. At one point, Robotnik had gotten his hands on the roboticizer, and is now using it for his own evil purposes. He also seeks to steal the Seven Chaos Emeralds for his schemes of world domination. This is one of the reasons why King Naruto had set up the ninja program throughout Land of Angels, to stop that vile man from ever getting his way. We are trained to oppose power-hungry scumbags like Robotnik. The Mr. and Mrs. became shocked. If I were in their shoes, I'd react that way, too, I would. I mean, if I were a parent, I'd be horrified at the thought of myself or even my children being turned into robots against our will. We've dealt with him time and again, continued Eren Sensei, and trust me, we know what we're doing. With that out of the way, where do you want to go first? At this, Mr. Whitaker piped up, how about we go to the launch base zone? I'm sure my son would be excited to see a real-life space rocket blasting off from there. Oh, we do more than just launch rockets from that place, which is one of Land of Angels' industrial areas, bragged Dave with a drawl as he wiped some food particles off his mouth with a napkin. We've got a cool R&D facility at the place, where some of our country's brightest minds, aside from the king, develop all sorts of sweet gadgets and stuff. Technology reigns supreme at the launch base zone. Also, there's a stadium where the Extreme Gear National Championships are held. Of course, the launch base zone also takes place where a huge lake is. Not only that, but all our hardware we make sure doesn't dirty up the environment." In response, Billy Whitaker got excited and he was like, "Wow, let's go there right now." "I'd thought you never asked," smiled Eren Sensei, as he then took his warp ring and used it to make a portal to the launch base zone. Just as we arrived, we all smiled at the Whitakers' reaction to the place, and boy did they look amazed. Sweetening the deal further for them. Billy especially, they're about to launch a rocket. Looks like the rocket is just starting to blast off, too, with the ignition going underway. With smoke and flames coming out of the exhaust nozzles. That rocket began to slowly rise as began to go onward and upwards into the air. It was going so high up that, yes indeed, it might as well be going into space. As far as I know, there's a new satellite to be put into orbit. I bet this rocket must be the vehicle for deploying this satellite. Billy was practically jumping for joy at having actually seen a rocket launch happen. As Irving went and got him to cool his jets. So he says to the kid, "Billy, they're using that rocket to put a new satellite into orbit." Amazing, isn't it? So, we went around the launch base, looking at all the cool machinery and gadgetry that they have here, and when we're done, Eren-sensei decided to take us to our next destination, the Knuckles clan homeland. Man, it's been a while since we've been to Sensei's home turf. He's got family up there and they're wonderful people, too, they are. Eren-sensei has two sons who are also ninjas, Tachi-zo and Shojin-zo. They're part of C.L. number 7 asterisk of the Knuckles clan ninja corps, which was one of the first ninja divisions after King Naruto came into power, long before Land of Angels was started. Just as we arrived, we find ourselves in a certain city. And it is in the same area of jungle where the Shrine of the Master Emerald is located. It's also where the Zo family lives. It's like one of Mesoamerican-style cities, except with some modern twists. One of my favorite parts of the Knuckles clan's capital city is this mural. It depicts the events of Chaos, past, from when he was transformed by the Master Emerald, and to that fateful day when he went on his rampage out of anger. Here we are, said Eren-sensei, the Knuckles clan homeland. Specifically, the capital city of Mystic Asterisk. I have some family up here. Family, you say? Asked Mr. Whitaker. Might we go to see them today? Sensei nodded, and me and the guys were delighted. Man, do I love the Zos. Tachi and Shojin are the coolest, and Mrs. Zo makes some real fine chocolate drink. And she uses locally grown cocoa beans, which is good. The Knuckles clan homeland has some of the best cocoa beans anybody could find on the island. Then, there's the youngest, Lala Zo, and she's a bit of a brat. But she means well. So, we went through the city to Sensei's nice 2-story house in Mystic's residential area. He knocked on the front door, and it opened, revealing the lovely Mrs. Zo. She greeted our team with a smile. "Hello, boys. I see you've brought some company. You're just in time, too. I had just whipped up a fresh pitcher of chocolate drink." She invited us inside the house. As we walked in, we went to the living and sat down, just as we waited for Mrs. Zo to bring in the chocolate. Walking into the room is Tachi-zo, Sensei's firstborn son. The guy's the strategist and he's got some mad sealing skills, too. If he could put his mind to it, he might even be among the world's Fuinjutsu elite, maybe up there with two certain people in King Naruto's life who I'm not gonna mention by name. "What up, Tachi?" I greeted him with a casual wave, as I then put my hands behind my head as I rested them against a cushion. He sits down next to me and Dave, as he greets back, "I'm doing well. James, how's life with you lately?" "We're doing great, man," I said to him, right before I motioned my arm towards the Whitakers. "Tachi, these are the Whitakers." "Whitakers, this is Tachi-zo. He's one of Eren-sensei's sons and he's also a ninja. He and his younger brother Shojin-zo are on the same team, cell number 7 of the Knuckles clan ninja corps." It is then that Mr. Whitaker holds out his hand to offer a handshake, and as he shook hands with Tachi, he asks him, "So, Tachi, what do you do as a member of cell number 7? In response, Tachi-zo explained, "I help with devising strategies. And I also specialize in the sealing arts, or Fuinjutsu in technical terms. Fuinjutsu is when you seal items, living beings, chakra and other things inside another object. It can also be used to restrain people or unseal things that are contained in something or someone," as he then took out a storage scroll. He releases the seal on it, causing a cloud of smoke to appear, and when it cleared, it revealed a set of kunai knives. The Whitakers clapped, thinking that Tachi was pulling a magic show with that scroll, at which he lightly chided, "Come now, don't let appearances fool you. That wasn't something a stage magician could pull off. Besides, when I'm in need of a few extra kunai, I always have a storage scroll with a few of these at the ready on any mission. Why? Oh, you can also place storage seals on your body, so that when you release it, you can have something at the ready without having to search for a storage scroll. Some of the more complex seals can be a toughie to create. But when you whip them up properly, they can be really secure. Heck, there are even accounts in which high-class sealing jutsus were used to seal demons away. Right there and then, Mrs. Zhou came into the room, holding a tray with several drinking glasses of chocolate drink and stirring spoons. She sets it down on the ottoman, before asking us, "Would you like me to bring some sugar or cream?" I answered her, "Some cream would be nice, Mrs. Zhou. It'd be most appreciated." She nodded, before going back into the kitchen to get some cream for us. It is then that Mr. Whitaker asked Tachi Zhou, "You mentioned something about high-class sealing jutsus being used to seal demons away, right? Can they really do that?" He nodded, before explaining about Jinchuriki and how they had to Mons sealed inside of them at birth in order for them to be able to wield their power, along with the unfortunate fact that those who were made into Jinchuriki would suffer hardships in there from ruthless persecution, assassination attempts, and even having people within their own village make them act as weapons. Of course, on the topic of Jinchurikis, King Naruto's younger sisters are Jinchurikis, each containing a half of the extremely powerful nine-tailed fox. Unlike most others, they were looked upon as heroes, but in the process, they were spoiled rotten by all the attention, praise, and being given everything on a silver platter. Damned brats. Anyways, the Whitakers were shocked. They were, and rightly so. I mean, it's not all that fair for a Jinchuriki to have suffered through a lot of tough crap. But you know what they say, life isn't fair. That, and the fact that humans tend to hate anything that they could not fully understand, due to their paranoid fear of the unknown. Humanity can be flawed like that. Sadly enough. That's terrible, Mrs. Whitaker cried. Nobody should be treated so badly for something that they didn't even volunteer for. Mr. Whitaker added angrily, "If someone tried to use any of our children as a demon container, I'd knock his sorry block off." It is then that Mrs. Zhou came back with some cream for our chocolate drink, that which we thanked her for. So, we added the cream to our drinks, and mixed it in and drank. After taking a sip, Billy said, "Golly, this chocolate drink is delicious." Susie nodded in agreement, and she's also enjoying her drink, humming contentedly as she sipped and gulped it. Pav change. Third person. Time skip. Day 5. The next 2 days afterwards were not only eventful for the Whitakers and Team 14, but also memorable. They had gone to many places, meet many new faces, and had done many activities, all of which enjoyable. As of current, it is day 5, the last day that the Whitakers are on Land of Angels, before King Naruto returns them back to their own time period using the Master Emerald. There is plenty to do, plenty to see, and so little time. For this, Team 14 would make sure that their last day on the continent would be unforgettable, as they had saved the very best locations for last. First, they had gone to the Ninja Hall of Fame in Station Square, where they learned of the many great ninjas that were inducted into its hallowed halls, as well as of the story of the Sage of the Six Paths, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, and the Tailed Beasts. The Whitakers were also amazed at the story of how the Tailed Beasts came to be. They then went to the Mobotropolis Ninja Academy, Team 14's alma mater, so to speak, and the team itself showed the Whitakers around its halls and classrooms. Although, Hey did feel a bit of an intimidating chill when passing by the classroom where interrogation and torture technique resistance methods are taught. Thankfully, the instructors have medic ninjas on hand during lessons to make sure that nobody dies in class. When Billy asked about the posters in the hallway that make humorous jabs towards Konoha's academy, Aaron Zhou answered, "That's because of Sertai and people within Konoha's government poking their noses where they don't belong. They were taking half of the village's money and using it for their own benefit, and they had a bit of control over the academy. This allowed them to lower the standards in a way so that their spoiled, snot-nosed brats could pass the exams more easily. How pathetic, and their excuse for lowering the standards is that IT would make it so that Konoha would have more manpower in its military forces. Not only that, but it's the civilian part of the government. The nerve of some people. Politicians can be such troublesome people sometimes, aren't they? Sighed John, agreeing with Aaron's explanation as he pinched the bridge of his nose. After their tour of the academy, they then warped to Slammin Slopes, a ski resort situated in the ice cap zone. They enjoyed the views of the icy landscape on the ski lift, threw snowballs at each other, skied, snowboarded, etc. down the slopes and even warmed up by the fire. They also had a run-in with King Naruto, who was apparently having a day out with Amy Rose of the Freedom Fighters at the resort. This also gave the young ruler an opportunity to test out a new X-Treme gear prototype that he had whipped up in the Royal Workshop at Castle Mizukami. On the topic of X-Treme gears, the tour group had also visited the Pumpkin Hill Gear Park. Of course, Aaron Zonly allowed the genin to use rentals instead of warping home to retrieve their personal extreme gears, as he feels that he wouldn't have the patience for that. The Whitakers watched on as James, Dave and Irving showed their stuff on one of the half-pipes, impressing them with their technical skills. To take things further, they also got off some serious air time from the park's famous or infamous, depending on anybody's point of view, monster ramp. Not only that, but they also meet up with Black Jasper, who brought along some friends, 2 other members of the Black Gems team, who identify themselves as Black Spinel and Black Onyx. Thankfully, no ghosts had shown up to scare the living daylights out of anybody, but nobody would ever know when a ghost may strike. The last place that they had gone to is Emerald Woods, where the genin of Team 14 live. The team went over to the Rosen residence, spending some time with the Rosens, especially James's older brother Cameron, who the Whitakers Arn is particularly skilled in extreme gears, and has won several high-placed finishes in official Tienkega-sanctioned competitions, especially the Station Square Extreme Gear Freestyle contest where a Crush 40 concert was also held. The Rosen brothers had also played a few video games with the Whitaker kids, as well. Afterwards, the group is ready to warp to the Master Emerald Shrine. Alright, Whitakers, started Aaron Zo as he took out his warp ring, are you ready to go? They nodded, right before the Jonin activated the warp ring, which created a portal that leads to the entrance of the Master Emerald Shrine. They walked through it, and in what almost seemed instant, they find themselves at the shrine entrance, just as Aaron Zo retrieves his warp ring. Team 14 and Whitakers then walked past the gates, going down the pathway which leads to the shrine itself. Just as they have arrived at the shrine, they find King Naruto there, along with Kyler Yo, nicknamed Knuckles, who he assigned to be the guard for the Master Emerald, which glowed with a gentle viridian light as it sat on the altar. Also at the base of the shrine is the Whitakers' car, which has been kept in running condition since their arrival. Team 14, Whitakers, welcome, greets Naruto with a wave. I hope that you lot have had a wonderful few days in Land of Angels, and I reckon the Whitakers are ready to return home to their time period. The 50s family themselves nodded, though John Whitaker said with a sad smile, it's a shame that we won't be able to return here for a very long time, but we have our own home to come back to. We're going to miss this place very much, and we did have a great time, before turning to the wife and kids and asking them, didn't we? They nodded, just as Aaron Zo says to the Whitakers. And we'll miss you fellows, too, Whitakers. I sincerely hope that you live long and prosper when we return you home. James, Dave and Irving nodded with a smile. That is, until Dave came forward towards Billy, saying to him, Billy, before we let King Naruto send you and your family back home, I have a little something for you. He then reached into his backpack, and pulled out a silverback king yo-yo in its package. Billy was surprised as he took the large yo-yo into his hand, as he asked, is that a silverback king yo-yo? Dave nodded, before saying to him, I bought this for you so that you could enjoy offstring play, as well. I also put in an offstring trick book in the packaging for you, so that you could have something to learn new tricks with. Just be sure to play with it outside and not inside the house. You do not want to accidentally break something and make your mom mad, now do you? Billy shook his head with a fond smile, before saying to Dave, just you wait, Dave. I'll become a great offstring yo-yo player and make you proud. Patting the Whitaker son's head, Dave smiled back, I'm sure you will, little man. I'm sure you will. Also, your silverback king is white. Meanwhile, King Naruto and Kyler Yo are talking with Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker. As the former said to them, there's no need to worry about not being able to return to Land of Angels. Because we've put something in the trunk of your car for your troubles. Don't open it until you return home to your house. Got it? John nodded, before he asked, well, what is this gift that you've put in the trunk? Kyler Yo replied with crossed arms and a smirk, well, it's a surprise, and it's a big one, too. You'll have to see for yourself when you get home. It's a great one, we promise. It is then that King Naruto went up the stairway of the shrine, and sits down onto the Master Emerald. He begins to channel its power through his body as he began to glow in many colors at once. Right before he opens his now glowing eyes. It is then that a dimensional portal appears at ground level, right near the Whitakers' car, which the family themselves had gotten into and started up. They drive off into the portal, even as Team 14 waved goodbye. Just as the portal disappeared, Naruto jumps off of the Master Emerald and lands in front of Team 14, as he addressed them, don't worry about the Whitakers. They'll be fine. In fact, not only did I send them back to their timeline, I had also sent them to a few minutes after their past selves had disappeared to Land of Angels. As to what gift I've given the Whitakers, it will allow them to return to Land of Angels if they want to. You figure it out. Anyways, the mission is a success. You'll receive your payment once we get back to Castle Mizukami. Well done, Team 14. And Aaron Zo, have your mission report ready soon. Meanwhile, across the dimensional boundaries, the Whitakers had just returned home after watching the everyday sci-fi movie at the drive-in cinema. Just as they were going to go inside the house, John opens the trunk of the car to find a small package, with a note attached to it. He takes them inside the house with him. When the children were off to bed, John decided to open the package with his wife, but they had to read the note first. It reads, Dear Whitakers, inside this package is an extremely powerful and valuable item of my own creation. This will allow you to return to Land of Angels anytime you want to. Just think about where you want to warp, and it'll make a portal that leads to there. As you may have been probably told, I'm very particular about who I give these things to. Whatever you do, do not let it fall into the wrong hands or let somebody see you using it. Heck, you might Avenue figured out that it's a super warp ring. Yes, you read right, a super warp ring. As to how you can stop any suspicious person from learning of its true nature, you can wear it on your finger in its inactive mode like a regular ring. And pass it off as such. But the previous warnings stand, so be careful or else. But another warning, too, do not use the power of this super warp ring excessively, as that will cause suspicion. Remember the warnings, and things will run smoothly. Sincerely, Naruto Mizukami, founder and king of Land of Angels. The eyes of Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker widened in delight, but they also had a serious face for a moment, silently agreeing to each other not to use the super warp ring too much or let it fall into the wrong hands. John puts the warp ring onto his finger, as he and Jean then go to bed. To rest for tomorrow. Chapter 5 End. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.